Afternoon. I'm Beverly Robertson, and I'm President and CEO for the Greater Memphis Chamber. It is tremendously incredible to even think that a year ago we were all facing a pretty difficult set of circumstances, a lot of unknowns, and today we're getting back to the next normal, and we'll be faced with a whole new of challenges, including reopening our offices, bringing our teams back, and really understanding all the HR issues surrounding the vaccine. At the Chamber, we've noticed an uptick in the phone calls and emails from Memphis businesses asking questions surrounding vaccine hesitancy and their employees. Now, our hope is that we can arm you with some very useful information today. Now, today certainly would not be possible without the great partnership with the University of Memphis. We are so proud of it, and there are residual benefits that are coming that we never expected. A couple of months ago, the University of Memphis team and the Greater Memphis Chamber came together with the hope that we could provide information to our employers surrounding the implementation of the COVID-19 vaccine and how to ensure that our Memphis business leaders are armed with all the information they need to make good and accurate decisions when it comes to the vaccine and their employees. This is the last in a series of meetings and sessions, and the previous sessions we've included on our website, and we'll do the same with this one. But these sessions are designed to clarify some things that you can consider as you bring your employee base back. Thank you again for being with us today. And I would now like to turn it over to Kimberly Grantham, who has been with us throughout. She represents the University of Memphis. So Kimberly, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Beverly. It has been such a pleasure working with you and your team over the past couple months to present this important information to our Memphis business community. As Beverly mentioned, today is the last installment in this series. While we have been planning this for a while, we've had to stay fluid as it seems that every week or really even every day, we must move in a new direction when it comes to this pandemic. So today is dedicated to vaccine hesitancy and how to communicate effectively to your team. 2 weeks ago, Memphis Fire Director Gina Sweat joined us to announce a new concierge level experience at the vaccination site for employers to encourage their employees to receive the vaccine with hardly no wait time. Unfortunately, as Beverly mentioned, our employers are challenged with employees who do not want to receive the vaccine for a number of reasons. And as we have read in the news, it's been a challenge to get our team members to the site. We reached out to our good friend Sarah Burnett at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital, explaining the issue so that many of our business leaders are facing. She simply responded, "I have a guy." And today, I'm so very proud to introduce you to her guy, Dr. Brandon Edgerson. He's willing to join us today. And let me tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Edgerson is Le Bonheur's Chief Operating Officer. In his role, he oversees operations in the pharmacy, lab, radiology, rehabilitation services, nutrition, spiritual care, child life, social work, volunteer services, and respiratory care. We are so glad that he is with us. Brandon joined the Le Bonheur family in 2006 and served as Director of Pharmacy before moving into his current position. In addition to his work at Le Bonheur, he's held the offices of President and Secretary Treasurer for TSHP and has been involved in various professional organizations such as TPA, Children's Hospital Association, American Society of Health System Pharmacists, and the UTHSC Pharmacy Alumni Board. Brandon earned his PharmD from Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans, completed his residency training at The Ohio State University Medical Center, and earned his master's from The Ohio State University. As you listen to Dr. Edgerson, I encourage you to place your questions in the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen. We will ask your questions after our second presenter. Dr. Edgerson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kimberly, for that introduction. So I'll go ahead and dive right in with our topic today. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Le Bonheur Children's first. We're a 255 freestanding pediatric hospital. We're part of the Methodist healthcare system, which includes 6 hospitals. We currently have 3,000 associates. I'll talk a little bit about some of our plans as it relates to how we're encouraging them to be vaccinated. We have 750 pediatric specialists in 40 specialty areas. We have been ranked by US News and World Report in 8 of the 10 areas. We do all of this work in great partnership with our great partners, which is the University of Tennessee, the University of Memphis, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Most recently, we're very excited. We received our 2nd magnet designation this week, so our team is really celebrating that. And we're also one of the few pediatric trauma centers. So my goal today is really to cover a couple things with you. One, to give some clear information about the COVID vaccine, to discuss some of the frequently asked questions about the vaccine, and really to answer your questions. So one of the first questions that I typically get asked is, how was the vaccine developed so quickly? There's a lot of hesitancy around receiving a vaccine that many individuals think made it to the market extremely quick before they were ready to receive it. So there's 3 real points for you to consider with why a vaccine made it to the market that quickly. The first being the massive rise in cases. The second, we'll talk a little bit about the technology and the financial impact. The key things that I would say about the massive rise in cases, typically when you think about vaccines, it usually takes quite a bit of time for us to have a number of cases available for us to be able to investigate and do the current trials. Typically, a phase 1 trial involves enrolling small numbers of healthy people to test whether or not the vaccine appears to be safe and to induce an immune response. Secondly, we go to phase 2, which enrolls more people and looks for the safety of the dosing of the vaccine. And then in phase 3, it involves tens and thousands of individuals to really determine the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine. The advantage we had, obviously, with the pandemic is that we had large numbers of cases, which allowed us to move quickly into the investigative trials. The second piece to this is the use of technology. Typically, vaccines take a while to grow. Usually we're using egg media as well as cell cultures in a lab, which takes quite a bit of time for us to develop. In this case, we actually used mRNA vaccines, which required manufacturing short copies of the virus genetic code. And with that, when we think about mRNA, it really is a way for us to determine and develop a spike protein, which allows us to recognize what the virus would look like. And typically, in that case, the body can then provide an immune response, which allows us to develop the antibodies to fight against the vaccine. Thirdly, I tell everyone it's the huge financial investment when you're thinking about developing a vaccine. Typically, it takes quite a number of funds for us to be able to move forward in developing the vaccine. With the world impact of COVID-19, we had several investors that were willing to invest to determine a treatment and prevention of the virus. Secondly, I would say typically we don't produce the vaccine before all of the trials are completed. With the severity of this case, the manufacturers were willing to invest and develop the vaccine and put it to market before all of the trials were completed. So the number one question, I think, is the vaccine effective? That is typically one of the big things that a lot of individuals will ask. So I'll tell you a little bit more about the Pfizer vaccine and its effectiveness. With the Pfizer vaccine, there were a number of individuals that participated in this trial requiring both the first and second dose. The individuals that were enrolled in the study are age 16 and older. Following the 2 doses that were provided for the Pfizer vaccine, it was proven to be 95% effective. So yes, they did have a large number of test patients in the study to prove the effectiveness of the Pfizer vaccine. Secondly, I'll tell you a little bit about the Moderna vaccine. very similar to the Pfizer one, using the mRNA technology. 28,207 participants received 2 doses. Give you a little bit more data here. 11 patients who received it still developed COVID infection, as compared to 185 patients who received placebo developed the COVID infection. The difference between the Pfizer and the Moderna, you'll see the age difference there, 18 and older. It also requires 2 injections, and it was proven to be 94% effective. In addition to that, one of the things that was a little bit different with both products was that it required a EUA, which allowed us to be able to move the product to market faster. A lot of individuals do ask, is an EUA something new? And typically EUAs were developed back in 1930. It actually became more relevant in 2004 after 9/11 attack with bioterrorism. And with that, the FDA still requires, before the products can be used, to actually have an investigative panel review the data to ensure that it's safe and effective to move to market. So how safe is the vaccine? So this is a question that I think comes up more and more each and every day. What are the things that we're expecting to experience with receiving the vaccine? The way I always explain that question is these are typical responses that you would typically see with any of the vaccines. So if you look at the chart that I'm providing, you'll see we're comparing the shingles vaccine to both the Pfizer, Moderna, and the flu vaccine and placebo. With the Pfizer vaccine, key thing that I tell a lot of individuals is that younger participants that were enrolled in this study, we did have 100 adolescents aged 12 to 15, for example, did experience fever after their first dose and after their second dose. One of the things of note is that 14% showed fever after the first dose and 20% after the second dose. As compared to when you move into the older age of 55 and older, you'll see only 1% displayed fever after the first dose and 11% after the second dose. I say that to say that you will see that as we are younger, you have a larger immune response as compared to when we get older. Typically, with other things, as we get older, things begin to diminish, and that's the same with our immune response. So if you look at the remaining side effects with the vaccine, here's the typical breakdown. The most common reaction reported was headache and fatigue. The majority of participants reported pain at the injection site. A third of the participants receiving both the Pfizer and the Moderna experienced chills and muscle aches. But the most important fact that I like to provide the information to is that less than 1% experienced severe reactions after the first dose, and less than 2% experienced what we would consider to be severe reactions after the second dose. So with the number of test patients in the studies, you see a really, really low number of individuals responding with these symptoms as listed: fatigue, headache, muscle ache, swelling, fever, and GI upset. So the next question that is typically asked is, when is the vaccine contraindicated? There really are no contraindications. There are some significant considerations where we would recommend that you consult a physician. The first one being previous history of severe allergic reactions to a vaccine. If someone is pregnant and planning to become pregnant, as well as if someone is currently lactating, and also if someone has an immunodeficiency or autoimmune disorder. They should consult a physician on a case-by-case basis to ensure that the vaccine is the correct path for them based on their condition. The other one that I would add to the list is we do recommend a 14-day wait period between receiving any additional vaccines if you're going to receive the COVID vaccine. The last contraindication would also be a wait period of 90 days if you received any of the monoclonal antibody therapies. So here's the question that a lot of my family members have asked: what should I expect after I experience or receive the vaccine? As mentioned in the study and in the research, the most common response is the feeling of being fatigued, tired, or worn out. And typically that lasts 1 to 2 days. Again, this is partly because your body is thinking that it's fighting and providing an immune response to the viral infection. The second one, to remind everyone, is mentioned in the study that we just discussed. If you're younger, you may see more of these milder symptoms as compared to someone who's 55 and older. Again, having a stronger immune system will produce a more stronger immune response. The other thing that I mentioned to a lot of individuals is that the second dose will cause more discomfort, or you will see a higher immune response with that second dose. A lot of questions that our employees will ask about that is to try to coordinate their dose around their work schedules. So if you know you're going to have an off day, to typically try to schedule that dose leading up to that off day. So what about the long-term safety effects of the vaccine? That is another typical question that we get asked. Well, this came out really quickly. How do we know that this vaccine won't have some long-term implications? Typically, side effects with vaccines are demonstrated within 2 weeks of receiving the vaccine. So really, there's not a huge risk of long-term side effects with the vaccine. It will be similar to what we've seen with the flu vaccine. Historically, long-term side effects have been demonstrated within 2 to 3 months of the vaccine being developed. One of the good things with our rapid launch of the vaccine and starting these studies, we were able to begin vaccinating patients early in the summer of 2020. Here at Labana, we actually started in December. So we're now past that phase where I think we have enough examples of information regarding what sort of side effects we would see with these vaccines. The other thing I would mention to you is that it's very important to have transparency. So with this vaccine, a lot of work was put in place by the CDC to document any of the adverse side effects, whether it's with the app or actually filling out the application and submitting to the CDC directly. So one of the more pressing questions that has come up is what's going on with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? And some of the answers that I've been given are things that I've had to respond to is how's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine different? It is a viral vaccine or viral vector vaccine. What that means is it takes a less harmful virus to create the spike protein, which then generates the immune response and your body generates antibodies to fight against that. With the viral vector, typically our goal is to lessen the effect of the disease. So a little bit different than what we've seen with the mRNA vaccines. So the most recent update as it relates to the Johnson & Johnson product was that it was paused by the CDC based on some of the severe symptoms that I have listed here that arose after 3 weeks of receiving the vaccine. What those signs were was severe headache, abdominal pain, leg pain, shortness of breath, and with that led to blood clots being identified in 6 patients within the doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So with that, the CDC has elected to put that product on pause. That meeting will be held on April 23rd to discuss really the findings within that data to determine if there's any commonalities within those patients or anything actions we will need to take moving forward with that product. So more to come on the Johnson & Johnson product. The other question that comes up typically is, when am I going to be fully vaccinated and when can I do the things I did before any of the COVID pandemic outbreak? So people are considered to be fully vaccinated 2 weeks after their second dose in the 2-dose series of the Pfizer and Moderna product. With the Pfizer product, you receive the second dose after 21 days of the first dose. The Moderna product requires a 28-day for you to receive the second dose. 14 days from then, the virus would be at its max capacity, which, as we mentioned in the study, would be 95% and 94% in that order of Pfizer and Moderna. So when can I go back to normal after the vaccine? That is the burning question, I think, for many of us today. Even here at the hospital, a lot of our associates are really wondering when we'll be able to return back to the normal activities that we do each and every day. So here's just some of the recommendations that the CDC has outlined in regards to where we are currently. You can visit inside of home or private setting without a mask with other fully vaccinated people of any age. So that does give us that opportunity to interact with those that are vaccinated. So again, just another opportunity for us to encourage others to move forward with getting the vaccine. You can visit inside a home or private setting without a mask with one household unvaccinated individual who are not at risk for severe illness. So again, my comment there is I've had several requests for, hey, I've had an elderly family member that's celebrating a birthday, or a member of our team celebrating that they just completed their chemo treatment. Again, that would put them in that severe illness category, and we would have to proceed with caution there. I think one of the greater advantages is the next couple items. So the travel domestically without a pre and post test. Again, one of the challenges that I know a lot of individuals face is requiring a COVID test before they're able to travel and before they're able to return back to work. Also, traveling domestically without having to quarantine. A big concern there. I've had several individuals say, I have a certain amount of days that I want to take off, but I'm going to be required to quarantine an additional 3 days or 4 days, which really affects my time off. So again, just another advantage for them to consider receiving the vaccine. And then lastly, traveling internationally, again, with a lot of our patients, especially the cardiac patients that travel internationally, they are required to have a pre-COVID test before arriving and before returning to their destination. So again, just some things to consider there. Can I go back to normal after I have the vaccine? So what are some of the things the CDC says you should not do? And here, just two real common ones that are recommended. Visit indoors without a mask with people at increased risk of severe illness. So again, just as I mentioned previously, if someone has a severe illness, although you may have the vaccine, they are still at risk for you being able to transmit the vaccine to them. And secondly, at medium or large gatherings, we're still limiting within our space as far as the number of individuals that should congregate. If you look at probably the most recent numbers, you'll see with some of the larger gatherings that we've probably seen over the spring break and Easter holiday, you're seeing a little bit of an uptick in the rise in our cases. So what else? Until we know more, in public, the CDC also asked us to continue to wear masks. I know that has been probably one of the more pressing topics as of today, trying to identify when we will not be able to wear masks. I think masks will be here for a bit as we see and continue to try to encourage others to receive the vaccine. Masks is a critical measure for us to prevent the spread of infection. The second point there is still recommending that you still would be required to stay 6 feet apart from others. Again, that's the distance for transmission. And again, avoiding those large crowds in poorly ventilated spaces. Any opportunity to transmit the disease to other individuals, we want to try to avoid that. And so with that, I appreciate you listening to me today. And I want to thank Sarah Burnett and Morgan Jones, one of our pharmacists that assisted me in putting this information together for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Edgerson. It is a nice talk. Have a lot of information. All this information is very helpful for our community. It's very nice and a lot of information. Thank you very much. And we will call you back at the Q&A section with that. So audience, if you have any questions, please send your question in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. So next, my responsibility to introduce next speaker, Dr. Marian Levy. Dr. Levy, currently a professor and associate dean, School of Public Health at the University of Memphis. Dr. Levy received her doctoral degree in UCLA in 1994. After that, Dr. Levy joined faculty member University of Memphis. So during this time, she held a different position, various positions in university and Lebanon Hospital and Selby Public Health Department. In 2018, Levy tenured and promoted to associate dean right now. So Dr. Levy is a registered dietitian and a fellow of academic nutritionist. Dr. Levy received numerous awards and honors, especially she received a Ruby Wharton Outstanding Woman Award for Race Relationship. She received a Best Teacher Award in University of Memphis, and she received a Torsi Spanish Distinguished Award in Tennessee Public Health Association. And finally, she received a 2011 Outstanding Dietetic Education Award. Dr. Levy holds several positions, and especially she is president of Tennessee Public Health Association, and she served many editorial board, various journals, especially she is served editorial board in Journal of Academic Nutrition and Dietetics. So finally, Dr. Levy doing a lot of research. She brought a lot of money to her department. She received numerous grant awards. Dr. Levy published more than 50 peer-reviewed publications. And finally, this was important to strike me. Dr. Levy presented more than 170 conference presentation. This is very enormous. With this short notice, I welcome Dr. Levy. Dr. Levy, here you go. You please take it.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Let's see. Can everyone see it?
Yes, we're good to go.
I think let me share the other screen. Hold on. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Marian Levy. I'm the Associate Dean of the School of Public Health at the University of Memphis. We're a CEF accredited school, and it's our pleasure to be here today. According to the World Health Organization, there are the 3 C's of vaccine hesitancy. The first is complacency, and that means people have a perception that they have a low risk. And even if they do get COVID, it's not going to be that bad. And the second is confidence. There is a lack of trust in the vaccine, its effectiveness, who produced it, and the reliability of the people who are promoting it. And the third is convenience. It's not convenient for people to get it. It's not a good time. It's not a good place. It costs money. So they're hesitant to get it. So those are the 3 C's of vaccine hesitancy. And these are some of the common barriers. And by the way, I'm a behavioral scientist. So Dr. Edgerson gave a great presentation about the science of it. I'm going to give more information about the behavioral science and how to encourage people to get the vaccine. So common barriers are, I don't think it will protect me from COVID. The vaccine is dangerous. We don't know about the side effects. It could be risky because it was rushed. And Dr. Edgerson gave a great description of the fact that it wasn't rushed. All the steps were met. It was just a compressed time. Plan to wait 6 to 12 months to see if it's safe. I don't think I'm at high risk. It's against my religious beliefs. And if someone has religious belief against the vaccine, we're not going to convince them. So I don't believe in, I believe in respecting people's religious beliefs, their freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of belief. So that's just how it is. We can work around it and encourage them, but there's no way we're going to change someone's mind who has strong religious beliefs. I'm concerned that there's a hidden purpose in the vaccine, and it's too hard to get an appointment. And that last barrier has been overcome because now the vaccine is widely available for all ages of adults. So I'd like to refer to a survey that Dr. Nolan presented last month. This was a survey that this organization developed and promoted. It was sent to 542 employers. About 10% of employers responded, which is a low response rate, and was sent to over 4,500 employees, and a little over 300, less than 10% responded. So it's got a 10% response rate, so it's not that robust, but it's interesting information that I'll share with you. So on the left-hand column, for employers, 96% were either very likely or likely to get the vaccine. On the right column of employees, 86% were very likely or likely to get the vaccine. 7% were unlikely compared to the employers, only 2% were unlikely. Reasons for not, that they stated, and again, this is an N of 40, so it's not a large number of people, but this is what they responded. Don't trust it, religious reasons, it was created too quickly. I don't believe the vaccine will benefit me. I have concerns about the side effects. And the barriers to the vaccine, access and personal opinion. So the access has been removed, I think. And I'm not eligible, that also has been removed. The employer and employees' preferred method of communication was very similar, email. So here are some important elements of communication to consider when you're communicating and encouraging people in your business or your personal sphere of influence. The communication has to be relevant. It has to resonate with their concerns. You have to be sincere, and it has to be truthful. In public health, there's an icon, Paulo Freire, who said, start where the people are. So instead of giving the information that you think is important, understand their concerns, understand their perspective, understand their point of view, and deliver the information accordingly. There's an expression, people don't care how much you know, they want to know how much you care. So frame the message, and I think it's a sign of respect too, when you care enough to understand the person's point of view, and it's just a sign of respect that you care about their opinion. So you want to address their concerns about personal risk, the safety of the vaccine, its effectiveness, and any distrust issues that they have. You want to find out if you're trying to influence people or encourage people to get the vaccine, who is it that they trust? Who is the role model? Who will they listen to? And you want to shape the message accordingly. If they are concerned about their family and friends, the message might be do it for yourself and your friends. Certain cultures are very concerned about family, la familia, do it for your children. Find a role model who's an effective messenger, who they think is important, who they trust, and use the best medium. It might be email, it might be a recording, it might be YouTube, or with younger people, it might be email or Twitter. So shape it according to their concerns. Excuse me. And use models with whom they identify. Role models who look like them. So at this point, Kimberly, I'd like to share a YouTube video from CDC that addresses or targets various ethnicities and incorporates various concerns that people may have. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen and let Kimberly share that. Kimberly, do you have it? I don't think the sound is on, Kimberly.
I wear a mask because it's a tiny sacrifice to protect your freedoms.
I wear a mask because I can help stop the spread of COVID-19 in my community.
I wear a mask because I care about you, even if I don't know you.
I want to keep doctors, nurses, and other essential workers safe.
I wear a mask because I can, but my baby can't.
I wear a mask because I want to feel safe sending my kids back to school. My kids wear masks to keep their friends safe.
I wear a mask because I want you to stay healthy.
I wear a mask because I really want to get a haircut soon. I wear a mask because I care about the health and well-being of those around me.
I wear a mask because I might not know that I'm sick.
Yo uso una máscara para mi familia y la comunidad.
I wear a mask because I want to keep others safe.
I wear a mask because I want to protect everybody.
I wear a mask because too many people who look like me are getting sick and dying from COVID-19.
I've grown fond of seeing people smile with their eyes. It's a beautiful experience in these times.
Do it for their futures.
Even if you don't have to, I hope you choose to.
Thank you, Kimberly. And Kimberly, we can go to the next CDC message. This next message is geared toward African Americans, and it features African American health professionals and public health professionals.
We are Black American members of the National Academy of Medicine,
The premier health science organization in our nation.
We are scientists,
Physicians, healthcare professionals,
and public health experts.
we are also sisters,
Mothers.
wives, and daughters.
we are brothers,
Fathers, husbands, sons.
We are your neighbor. The person in line at the grocery store checkout. The person sitting next to you in church. We are members of the Black community.
Many of us have fought our way into healthcare professions specifically to care for our community.
Many of us have devoted our careers to exposing racism in healthcare.
All of us have focused our careers on improving health for all.
That is why we support the COVID-19 vaccine, and we encourage you to get vaccinated.
Trust in government does not come easily for our community. Too often our health has been ignored and even abused.
It is not surprising that polls show that many Black Americans are hesitant to get vaccinated.
We understand why.
But COVID-19 is very serious, and it has a devastating impact on our community.
We have come through so much over the years.
Now we are facing another life-threatening challenge.
We must do what we have always done.
We must choose to do what is necessary for our community's survival.
As health professionals, we understand the science. As members of the Black community, we understand your distrust.
We have reviewed the research.
Some of us have participated in developing the vaccines, designing the studies, and monitoring the results.
And we are confident the research was done correctly. Many of us have already received the vaccine.
the rest of us will get it when our turn.
We encourage you to claim your place in line to get vaccinated.
Do it for yourselves.
Do it for your loved ones.
Do it for our community.
Do it because we should not tolerate one more preventable death.
Thank you, Kimberly. Let me. So as we close, I'd like to just say, shape the message according to the audience, their concerns, their perceptions, and who they consider role models. Remove barriers, make it easy, make it convenient, and provide incentives. Provide a message of understanding that what you're saying reflects their perceptions, that they have been heard and they have been listened to, and their views are important. That there's a message of hope, that we will get through this, we'll get through this together. And also a message of unity. There's so much hostility and so many problems currently, that we need to promote a message of unity, that we're all Americans, that we're going to get through this together and be stronger as a nation. And if you want some resources, they have some excellent resources in the CDC Media Kit. They have videos, they have infographics, messages that you might want to use, and they're all on the website, CDC website. And I guess we will finish, and I will turn it over to Dr. Ramanathan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Levy. So all the information is very useful. And so right now the QA session, I invite Dr. Edgerson back on the screen. Okay. So we received so far there are 4 questions. There are 5 right now, and before that, so I have a question. So my question is, right now there are 3 variants right now. It's a UK variant and Brazil variant and South African variant. So I know there are a mutation in the spike protein, and there are 3 different mutations, 3 or 6 different mutations, and why the VQ variant very virulent compared to other 2? That's the first number 1 question. And the number 2 question, so current Pfizer vaccine and Moderna vaccine, is it okay with this variant mutated virus infected to the people?
I'll start answering the first part of that question. I think one of the things that we're currently doing right now is looking at our individuals that test positive and looking at what those variants are, and then doing the research to determine were they vaccinated and not vaccinated. So I think it's a little bit early right now to really be able to answer that. Most of our COVID tests will be testing for positive or negative. Once we have that result, we have to do a secondary step to determine what the variant is. And so we're in that process right now of working with our partners at UT to look at what those variants are and what we're actually seeing. And with that, we'll be able to hopefully be able to determine what we're seeing as far as vaccinated and unvaccinated patients.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, so from the question from audience, the first question is, how do you see mRNA utilized in other vaccine moving forward, especially mutating virus like flu?
What was the question again?
So the question is, can we use mRNA technology for other virus infection like flu?
I'll let Dr. Edgerson address that.
I think mRNA is something that we will see more and more utilization of. As far as whether or not we'll see it with flu, I think that's to be determined. If you think each year, as we look at our flu vaccine and determining how that's prepared and determining what those strands will be, there's a lot of work that goes into making that determination. So I do believe that we will see some ability to explore what the applications are with mRNA moving forward with a variety of vaccines.
Okay, thank you. So second question is, are we able to obtain the presentation slides? I think so. I'm right.
I would think so.
Then the third question is, what is the considered to be medium gathering in terms of number?
I think right now, at least our stance has been, we've been still keeping with small gatherings of 10 or less. Early on, I think we were looking at some numbers that would move that number to 25, being the medium size. And I know that the CDC does put out some guidelines as it relates to gathering sizes. So hopefully we'll hear more about that as we continue to see more and more individuals become vaccinated.
Okay. So the next question is, any tips on encouraging staff to get vaccinated without having mandated?
I think encouraging people through social networks, through having people want to, when they see their friends, when they see their colleagues getting vaccinated, and the people are sharing stories that it didn't hurt, they weren't sick afterwards. Also maybe providing incentives such as time off or using annual leave to get the vaccine. So I agree that mandating the vaccine is not going to be that desirable. I think you would want to do it by encouraging people through the socialization and the other benefits, incentives and time off. That's what I would suggest.
Okay. The next question, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I agree with Dr. Levy. I think right now we're in that phase where those personal testimonies to your friends and family members is really the biggest advantage we have to encourage others. Once they're able to see others move forward, we're actually seeing more people take the time to be vaccinated based on that.
Okay. So next question is, what is specific tactics have you been successful in convincing hesitant employee to go ahead to get vaccinated?
Yeah, a couple of things here for us, back to those personal testimonies. I think also understanding, going back to the chart that I outlined, if you look at the risk with the vaccine as compared to understanding what the experience is for individuals that have actually had COVID-19 and sort of do that side-by-side comparison of what is the worst case scenario for you, clearly you see the advantage would be to experience some of those milder symptoms from a vaccine versus experiencing full COVID-19. And so that's what I hear, kind of the shared stories between individuals leading others to be willing to be vaccinated.
Okay, this is interesting question. So my employee is a spouse of nurse, and she says that not required to get vaccine at her hospital. Is that true that the healthcare worker are not required to vaccinate?
Let me make sure I understand the question. They're asking about it being required.
Yeah.
We have not. I know there's been a lot of discussion around making it required. As I mentioned earlier, with it being under the emergency use authorization, we've not explored making it mandatory because it still has that emergency authorization. So I know a lot of institutions have pondered that question, but I think until you're out of that phase of emergency authorization, you won't see many employers moving toward making it required.
And I can speak on behalf of a university setting. Some universities are requiring that vaccine, you have proof of vaccine when you return to campus, but University of Memphis is not doing that so far. So I think it's, as behavioral scientists, it's more of a matter of encouraging people through providing messages that resonate with them, role models that they respect, and having them do it voluntarily. And maintaining the social distancing and the mask use to protect everyone who has not been vaccinated.
Okay. So next question is, how do you respond to employee that shares vaccine fear due to lack of information of potential infertility issues that would be caused by the vaccine?
Well, I think I would respond to her that you appreciate the fact that she opened up to you about her concern, that I would go to the CDC website and look to see some reputable information about it and use that as a source for a decision.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how do we encourage employees to continue using the best practice at the work when they are seeing relaxing of this practice in their communities?
I can say that I would respond to their sense of altruism, that we're doing this to protect ourselves, each other, and at the University of Memphis, our students and our community. So we're doing this out of a sense of individual responsibility and collective responsibility.
Okay.
And I would agree with that statement. I think it really is to encourage them about what our ultimate mission is, which is to take care of patients. In order for us to do that safely, we still have to follow those safe practice guidelines.
Okay. So the final question, do you have any idea when the vaccine emergency authorization will be made permanent authorization?
I don't know.
I have not seen any information on that as of yet. So yeah, that's definitely something we would have to look to the CDC when they would actually release that information.
Yeah. So finally, I would like to thank both speakers. It's very good information. All the information is very useful for our community. And also I would like to thank audience. Thank you for listening this wonderful talk and a very informative information. And all the information is very useful for our community. Thank you. So now I'll give to Kimberly.
Hi, Matt Walker here. Unfortunately, Kimberly had to step away, but we just wanted to thank you for joining us today. Special thanks to Dr. Levy and Dr. Edgerson for joining us, and for Dr. Ramanathan for moderating. We've had some requests for the slides. We will work on getting those to you, and stay tuned for some future emails from us. We're working on some toolkits that will hopefully help you talk with your employees and educate them. So stay tuned for that. But thank you for joining us, and hope you have a great day.
Thank you.